All right, let's dive into one of the most powerful yet simple mental models out there for getting a handle on your emotions, the 90-second rule. Let me just ask you this. Have you ever had one of those days, a colleague sends a slightly passive-aggressive email, or your boss makes a quick, curt comment, and boom, suddenly, that one tiny thing completely hijacks your brain for the rest of the afternoon? If that sounds familiar, then you, my friend, have been caught in what's called the emotional spiral. It's that awful loop where you just can't stop replaying it, dissecting every word, maybe even rehearsing imaginary arguments in your head. It is one of the biggest drains on your mental energy, period.
What's happening here, technically, is a cycle of rumination. And let's be honest, it's a terrible use of our brain power. It's this high-friction, zero-value mental activity that just obliterates your focus and your peace of mind. And you end up feeling completely exhausted, right? Not because the trigger was so big, but because your mind is just stuck on repeat. Okay, so here is the most crucial takeaway I want you to get from this. This is not a personal failure. It's not a flaw in your character. It's a system failure. You're not weak. You just haven't been given the right tool, like an internal pause button, to deal with the emotional reaction. And that is exactly the system we are going to build today.
So, to fix this, we've got to look under the hood a little bit. We need to understand the biology of what's happening. Because an emotion, it turns out, isn't some random feeling. It's a predictable biological event. And here's the kicker. It operates on a 90-second clock. The moment something triggers you, a sudden shock, a perceived insult, your brain basically hits the panic button. It unleashes this survival cascade, flooding your body with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. That chemical cocktail, that is the physical experience of anger or fear or panic. It is a purely biological process. And here is the core insight, the part that changes everything, and it's backed by neurological research. The entire physiological lifespan of that chemical surge, from start to finish, lasts for only about 90 seconds. That's it, 90 seconds. And this is where the game is won or lost. That first 90 seconds, that's the automatic bodily reaction. It's a chemical flood you really can't stop. But anything that lasts longer than 90 seconds, well, that's a choice. It's a voluntary, cognitive choice. You are actively choosing to feed the fire by replaying the story in your head, which just re-triggers the whole hormonal response. So the initial surge is unavoidable. The hours of stewing that follow, totally optional. What's so amazing is that modern biology is really just catching up with ancient wisdom. Taoist philosophy talked about our vital energy, our qi, and they saw intense emotions as just a temporary disturbance in that flow. Their insight was so simple. A feeling is like a wave. You don't fight it, you don't try to stop it, you just let it crest and then you let it recede naturally. So let's reframe this whole thing. That feeling of anger or anxiety isn't some deep, mysterious character flaw. It's just a predictable, time-limited physical event. Seriously, depersonalizing it like this is the first and most critical step to getting control. You are not your anger. You are simply the person observing a temporary chemical event happening inside your body. Okay, so if the whole biological show is over in 90 seconds, how do we actually use that fact? Well, this brings us to the solution. The 90-second strategic pause. Just think of it as your very own internal stop button. The rule itself couldn't be simpler to say, though it takes practice to do. The moment you feel that intense emotional trigger, that flush of heat, that knot in your stomach, your only job is to do absolutely nothing for 90 seconds. Don't react. Don't speak. Don't start typing that email. Just pause. So, what does doing nothing actually look like? It's a three-step process. First, you have to stop the narrator. Shut down the internal dialogue. No more rehearsing arguments, no blaming, no what-ifs, just silence. Second, shift your focus from your thoughts about the feeling to the actual physical sensations in your body. Where is it? Is it a tightness in your chest, a clenched jaw, a knot in your stomach? Just observe it, like a curious scientist. And third, you just wait. You watch that sensation as it peaks, and then, as it must, it will begin to fade away right around that 90-second mark. This whole practice is something we can call strategic inaction. You are consciously building a firewall. You're preventing your thinking mind, your cognitive mind, from hijacking what is a natural and very brief biological process. You're just letting the wave pass without getting swept away by it. Now, look, this can be really hard at first. The urge to react is strong. So here are two little hacks to help enforce the pause.
First, use a physical anchor. The second you feel triggered, stand up, walk to the window, or just take one slow, deliberate, deep breath. That physical shift helps break the mental loop. Second, try a naming protocol. Instead of getting lost in the feeling, name it objectively, almost like a narrator. I am observing a surge of anger. This creates distance and kicks the logical part of your brain back into gear. So why is this 90-second gap so powerful? Because it creates what we can call the moment of choice. It's that tiny, precious window of time between the stimulus, the trigger, and your response. Before you create this gap, you're purely reactive. But after the gap, you become strategic. That's where all your power lies.
So what's the big picture payoff here? What happens when you practice this consistently? Well, this isn't just about feeling a little better in the moment. It's about fundamentally rewiring your brain to move from simple reaction to true resilience. See, the goal here isn't just to stop bad feelings. That's thinking too small. The real goal is to build something called emotional antifragility. And what that means is you don't just resist emotional shocks, you actually get stronger because of them. Every single time you successfully wait out a 90-second surge, you are building your emotional capacity. When you master this, you get 3 incredible benefits. First, you conserve a massive amount of mental energy because you're not wasting it on those pointless emotional loops anymore. Second, you gain priceless strategic time, which lets you choose a logical, smart response instead of a knee-jerk one. And third, you protect your focus. You stop your mind from being constantly fractured by things that happened hours or even days ago. So I'll leave you with this thought. Another emotional wave is always coming. It's just part of being human. That's a guarantee. The only question is, the next time it arrives, are you ready to just observe it, respect your own biology, and wait a mere 90 seconds before you choose what to do next?
Like and subscribe for timeless wisdom.